regards to vision and speech, vision-wise, you can have double vision, blurry vision, tunnel vision, where you're actually just focusing on a narrow lane of vision, and you can also have hallucinations. And speech really comes with the more extreme episodes of sleep deprivation, like 24, 30 hours plus. And then you could have word repetitions, use of cliches, monotonous speech, and slow and indistinct pronunciations. In regards to weight and the endocrine system, sleep deprivation can cause increased insulin resistance. Now, insulin is the hormone that helps you process sugars or glucose, which is your body's energy source. And if you are insulin resistant, you're not able to process this glucose. So you have glucose floating around, not being used. And that insulin is then being used for fat storage. It's grabbing any fat that it sees and then putting it in storage and conserving it. And then it can also decrease the amount of the hormone leptin. You might be asking what leptin is. Well, when you are eating and your stomach becomes full, your body tells yourself that you're full, and that's what leptin is, the hormone that does that. Well, if you have decreased leptin, then you have a decreased sense of fullness. And so you don't necessarily know when to stop. And then to add on to that, you also have an increase in the hormone ghrelin. Ghrelin is the hormone that stimulates appetite. So you have an increased appetite on top of decreased sense of fullness. It can also affect your immune system. It can decrease system function, and it can increase granulocytes. Now, granulocytes are a type of white blood cells. White blood cells are the cells in the body that, during times of infection from like bacteria or viruses, etc., they go out and sort of attack the intruding invaders and sort of mediate from there, either killing the things or disposing of them. And what scientists have found is that after one night of sleep deprivation, white blood cells are increased. Now, this doesn't mean that you have an infection after one night of sleep deprivation, because white blood cells can actually be sent out in anticipation of an infection. For example, if you cut yourself, white blood cells move through the bloodstream to that wound area and are surrounding the area in anticipation of bacteria or whatnot coming in. So that's kind of what's happening with the increased white blood cells in the morning after sleep deprivation. And companies should be very interested in sleep deprivation's effects, because it can affect a number of things. Decreased fatigue or increased fatigue, irritability, disorientation, paranoid thinking, accident rates. Those two are important. Accident rates, tardiness, absenteeism. Can also cause changes in mood, hallucinations, falling asleep at work. It can also decrease concentration, alertness. Productivity is a big one, performance. Decreased motivation, accuracy, working memory, and it can cause impaired judgment. Sleep deprivation's effects on driving. This is probably one of the most important slides on here. It can increase reaction time, increase average driving speeds, decrease alertness, and increase risk of accidents. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that at least 100,000 police-reported crashes, 500 deaths, and 71,000 injuries a year occur because of driver fatigue, drowsiness. This is a rough estimate because there is no objective test to test for sleepiness at roadside like there would be a blood alcohol level. You have increased risk for drowsiness and nodding off when you're driving long distances or monotonous driving, like not turning, like for example on an interstate. Scientists suggest that as little as 18 hours of sleep could cause as much impairment as a 0.05 blood alcohol level, and 24 hours of sleep deprivation could cause a 0.1 alcohol level, 0.08 being the legal limit. So signs of drowsy driving would be focusing on one point on the road, heavy eyelids, daydreaming while you're driving, and head nodding and yawning. So diseases related to sleep deprivation, you have obesity, hypertension, heart disease, hypertension being high blood pressure, stroke, depression, and diabetes type 2. So when I spoke earlier about the insulin resistance, the insulin resistance causes you to have higher blood sugars, which leads to diabetes type 2, and then it promotes fat storage, so that also leads to obesity. Obesity leads to hypertension. Hypertension leads to heart disease. Heart disease puts you at more risk for stroke, and then I imagine after all that you're depressed. So how do you promote this sleep and avoid all that? Well, it's important to establish consistent sleep-wake schedules, even on the weekends. You shouldn't sleep more than an hour or two past your normal waking time on the weekends. Create a regular, consistent bedtime routine, something that's going to get you relaxed, more at ease, like a warm bath, soothing music, reading. Alter your environment. Have a dark room, quiet, comfortable, cool room. It's proven that people fall asleep better in a cool room as opposed to a warm room. And a comfortable mattress and pillow is always important. Remember that bedroom is only for sleep and sex. No TV, no computer, no reading in bed. Thought being that if your mind's always associating these things with bed, then you'll be focused on them in bed and not be focused on sleeping, falling asleep. Also important things, no eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. You want your body to be able to focus on sleep and not focus on digestion because you had a heavy meal right before you went to sleep. Also exercise a few hours before bed. That idea being that you sort of tire your body out and get it in an exhausted state to where you can easily fall asleep. No caffeine after lunch, that's pretty obvious. Avoid bright lights in the evening. Avoid arousing activities like heavy study, text messages, prolonged conversations. And then this is sort of after you sleep. Expose yourself to bright lights upon awakening in the morning. This sort of stops your brain from producing melatonin, which you may have heard is sort of helpful in going to sleep. So the bright light stops the production of that and helps you awake a little easier. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I think that's why sleep deprivation can cause obesity too, because you have a longer hours in the day, and that's why it makes you get hungry too.
Mm-hmm.
So besides what you said about fat storage and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that explains too. That's why people get to increase their weight, because they have longer hours than others.
Mm-hmm.
Longer hours of awake time than others.
So you're saying that they more time to be hungry,
Yes.
so they eat more?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments, concerns, suggestions?
Very good.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time.